Welcome back to section 7. This is actually part 2 of chapter 10, section 7. We are talking about graphing equations of circles. I have 3 steps here that we need to pay attention to. The first step here is find and state the center point. So I need to find and state my HK. The second part here is I need to find in my equation and state the radius. So I'm going to find the radius. And then my third part is going to be actually plotting multiple points on the graph. And we need to make sure that we plot the center point and at least 4 more. This is important because this is how it'll be easier to actually graph our radius and identify our circle. So I'm going to come down here to this first part here, and we're going to start off by finding the center. So I'm going to go ahead and change that first color up here so I can match in my problems. Change it to lovely red. Okay, so starting with that very first color, I'm going to find my H and my K. Well, my H and my K are going to be the parts that are added or subtracted to my X and Y. In this case, it's going to be my H is added and my K is subtracted. However, we have to go back to our basic equation, my standard equation. I know my standard equation says X minus H squared. So it's always going to be the opposite sign. It's going to be the sign of H. In this case, if I had an X minus 4, I would know that I have a positive 4 for that coordinate. However, I have an X plus 4, so I can rewrite this as X minus a negative 4 to get this in my proper standard form. So my H in this case is actually going to be negative 4, and my K is going to be a positive 3. So my coordinate that I'm going to start out with for my center point is going to be negative 4, 3. So I'm going to come over here and graph it. I go negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 3, 1, 2, 3, and it goes right there. This is going to be my center point of my circle, and so we're going to label this actually with a C. My next step is actually going to be finding my radius. Well, we know that the radius is always going to be on this side, and it's going to equal r squared. So I'm going to say 25 is equal to r squared, so we know my radius is going to be 5. And so I'm actually going to plot 4 more points going 5 in each direction. So I'm going to have negative 4, 8. I'm going to have negative 4, negative 2. I'm going to have 1, 3, and have negative 9, 3. So those are the 4 points that I'm going to end up graphing. So let's go ahead and plot. And that's actually step number 3. Is we're going to plot 4 more points. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left and plot a point. And that happens to be negative 5, 3. I go up. There we go. And then here. And there. And if I did this right, all of my points should be, oops, this one's off, 5 in every direction. From here, I'm going to connect the dots with a lovely curve and try to just make a circle. I have a tool on my app that lets me do it, but really just try to make the best circle you can. Avoid making it look like a rhombus or a square or any other shape. Try to curve it to make it look a little bit more like a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. but this is going to be my circle. So moving on to the next one, this one we are given a standard equation. This next one, I'm told that I have endpoints of a diameter, and I need to find the equation of the circle before I can graph it. So let's go ahead and start off with step number 1 in finding my center point. And if I know that my endpoints of a diameter is going to be these two endpoints, I can say the midpoint of those will end up being my center point. So my center of HK, change the size of this, my center at HK is going to equal, this is going to be my x1, x2, y1, y2, and I'm going to use that lovely midpoint formula back from chapter 1. That's -1 plus 5 over 2, 1 plus -7 over 2. -1 plus 5 gives me a 4, and 1 plus a -7 gives me a -6 over 2. This will reduce to my center point, or HK, to equal to -3. And that's an easy and quick way to go ahead and find my center point. So I'm going to go ahead and find 2, -3, and plot my point there. And I'm going to label that with C again, because it is the center point. And unless I'm given the name of the circle, I'm just going to use C. Now my radius is going to be a little bit different. I have to use that center point, or I can do one of two things. I can use the distance formula to figure out the distance of my diameter and then cut it by 2, or I can use that center point, assuming I'm correct, and do that to one of my endpoints. Since I'm going to assume that I may have gotten it wrong, I'm actually going to go ahead and use my original 2 points here. So I'm going to say the distance, or my radius, or actually this is my diameter. My diameter is going to equal the square root of x2, 5, minus x1, which is a -1, squared, plus y2, -7, minus 1 squared. This will give me 5 plus 1, which is 6 squared, and -7 minus 1, which gives me a -8 squared. 6 squared is going to be 36, -8 squared is 64. 36 plus 64 gives me the square root of 100 here, which equals 10. And we know that's my diameter, so I'm going to go ahead and divide this by 2 to get my radius to equal 5. Whew, that was a lot of work. So I can actually rewrite my equation here if I really want to, which would be a good practice, and say that this equation is going to end up being x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared, which is going to equal 25, which is 5 squared. And that's my lovely equation of this circle. Oop, that's not the right shape. There we go. And so from here, I'm going to go ahead and figure out what points I'm going to plot. So I'm going to go 5 in each direction. I'm going to have 7, -3. I'm going to have -3, -3. I'm going to have 2, -8, and 2, +2. So I got 2, 2. I'll start with that one. Whoops. 2, -8. One more up. Then 7. Oop. There. And -3, 3 here. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my lovely curve as well as I can. And there we go. This is my lovely circle of number 2. So we just saw 2 ways that we'll have to use graphing a circle and 2 different ways to do it. If you flip over to the next page, I have one more example here, and this is actually using or solving real life situation using this graphing method and using graphing circles. So the epicenter of an earthquake is the point on the Earth's surface directly above the earthquake's origin. A seismograph can be used to determine the distance to the epicenter of an earthquake. Seismographs are needed in 3 different locations to locate the earthquake's center. Use the seismographs from locations A, B, and C to find the epicenter. So we're going to start with seismograph A, which is going to be my blue. And we're saying that it is 7 miles away from the center at point -2, 2.5. So this here, that -2, 2.5, is actually going to be my HK of this seismograph, of seismograph A. And then the 7 miles is going to be my radius. So I'm going to come over here to my graph and go ahead and find my -2, -2.5, or +2.5, sorry. So -2, +2.5 right there. And I'm going to count 7 in each direction and go ahead and create a circle here. So down 7. Here, up 7. There. Right 7. Left 7. And I'm going to go ahead and try to create as accurate a circle as possible. Again, I have a lovely tool on mine that helps me. So please make sure that, I know we are not all artists, but try to be as accurate as possible in creating these circles, because that'll really help you with the next part here soon. Now I'm having issues. We're going to say that for now. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So seismograph number 2, right here, or part B, is 4 miles away from their center spot. So again, this is going to be my HK. And I'm going to have a radius of 4 this time. So it's getting closer. So we're going to label this one as A. Now we're going to work on our B. B is going to be at 4, 6. So it's actually on my circle of circle A. This one's going to be B. We're going to go up 4, to the right 4, down 4, to the left 4. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and create this circle. So right now, ooh, that was bad. So as I was trying to say, right now, we have 2 points of intersection in my circle. We have one up here and one down here. Those are my 2 points of intersection right now. And so right now, I have to kind of be careful on my next graph to kind of figure out where that is going to cross. And this is why we need 3, because right now it's telling me I have 2 possible epicenters, and I can't have that in an earthquake. I have to have 1 single epicenter, which is why they have you create 3 different graphs. So let's look at my final one, which we're going to do in red. And this one is 5 miles away, with the center being at 3, -2.5. So like I said before, this is going to be my HK, and my radius is 5. So I'm going to go 3, -2.5, which is about here. Again, kind of on my circle. Circle C, and we're going to go in every direction by 5 miles. Oop. Create my circle. Ooh, that one was better at least. Goodness. And we should notice, do we notice that I have a lovely crossing point of all three of them right here? That's where all three will end up crossing. There we go. So I'm going to figure out what that coordinate is. In this case, I'm going to only use my whole numbers because since I am not 100% accurate on graphing this or creating my circles, I'm going to make a very good guess, and most likely it's going to be a whole number. So we're saying that the epicenter is at 5, 2 on my graph. So the epicenter is at 5, 2. And this would be my final answer. Okay, this is graphing your circles. We will begin with the actual chapter 11 in my next video, and we'll be moving on to circumference and arc length. No.